very excited and proud to continue to have this group meet here at Canon, so we're very thankful for that. And so part of our community is some amazing photographers, and one of them is Laura. She's part of our shoot here at Ground Star community, and so she is obviously a very talented photographer. We have a ton of her artwork hanging up in our office. We do. It's so fantastic, and so I'm very excited to present Laura.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming, and I know a lot of you, some of you I don't know, feel free to come up and introduce yourselves afterwards if we haven't met yet. But again, thank you guys to PhotoAbstract and ShootQ, as well as Canon. I mean, you guys have been awesome in terms of community and just helping out anytime I've needed help, so thank you for inviting me tonight. Tonight I wanted to talk about how to market yourself as a triple threat. When Amy asked me to come and talk, she said, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, God, what am I working on? And I kind of got my hands in lots of different things right now in terms of writing and video and photos, and Amy thought it would be really great to actually just talk about how I can utilize all the different tools that Canon equipment offers, some of it being photos and video capability in my speech. So without further ado, I'm going to get started here. So what is a triple threat? It's essentially someone in a particular field who exhibits 3 skills that are necessary to excel. So think about the old actors and actresses that had to be, a singer and a dancer as well to be a triple threat. And the way that we are in society today, in the digital world, and sharing things on social media, we're kind of forced to become a triple threat, to be able to share information in lots of different mediums and lots of ways. And we're forced to be videographers and writers and photographers every day, even if it's professionally or through an app or Instagram. So before we get started into all of that, I wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about myself and who I am. So I am a travel photographer. I specialize in destination weddings and adventure travel photography. I am also a travel writer. I'm a thrill seeker. I'm obsessed with documenting new experiences and cultures, and some would call me a photo anthropologist. And the entire reason I became a photographer was because I was obsessed with watching Jacques Cousteau and National Geographic Channel at a young age, and I had a really unusual upbringing with my family. Both my parents are now retired, but were CIA, and my sisters and I lived all over the world. We lived in Indonesia and Thailand, and at a young age I was exposed to a lot of travel and cultures. So I've always had this wanderlust, this travel bug inside of me. My first job in college was working at Langley in their PPG, or the photo printing group. So part of my job description after I got background checked for a year and got top secret clearance was to declassify images, which in government speak means erase people that weren't supposed to be in those photos before releasing it to the public. So that was part of my job description, which comes in handy now when I'm smoothing brides' arms and things like that. But that was how I learned my photo skills at a young age, and my photoshopping skills, I should say. I went to Syracuse University, and I studied fine art photography and got degrees in both that and commercial photojournalism. And my business of becoming a professional photographer after graduating was a bit unorthodox. So what they don't teach you in college is networking, is marketing, is starting a business, how to run a business. And they teach you how to be a great photographer, and then they give you all the equipment you could possibly want to use while you're there, and then they give you a degree, and they're like, what? So I left college with a degree, and I was completely broke. And after spending 4 years in Syracuse, I was like, I'm driving to Los Angeles. I'm not coming back. So I packed up my car, my little Toyota RAV4, and everything I owned, and I drove out to Los Angeles. And I made it as far as Nashville, Tennessee, before I realized that I needed money to get gas to get to Los Angeles, and I didn't have that. So I had to pawn my violin for gas money to make it to Los Angeles. And then I finally got here, and I had that moment, which I'm sure all of you have even now in your career. You're like, what now? What am I doing with that? So I basically got a bartending job and was living out of my car. And my very first week, I'm going to tell this really quick story. I was bartending, and I was sitting at the side of the bar. I had one customer at my bar, and I was just playing that Wheel of Fortune bar game at the end of the bar, and I was just talking out loud, I would be so good at the show if I would end up on the show, clean up, and the guy just kind of chuckled and paid his bill and left, and when I opened the bill, he left his business card, and he was the executive producer of Wheel of Fortune. And so I emailed him, and I told him that, you know, I took that opportunity to reach out and tell him that I was meant to be on a show. And a couple weeks later, he sent me an invitation to be a contestant on the show, and I won $7,000. And I was able to buy my first Canon camera, some lenses. So that was $7,000 was far back then, by the way. Now, I don't know how much you can get now for that, but anyway. So that was a true story of how I got started, and for me, photography wasn't always, there's my real fortune slide, my fortune thing. This to me is what I thought of as my career path. So photography wasn't always about the love of photography for me. In fact, it wasn't even on my radar growing up. I had no idea, I didn't even think about being one. I wanted to be an archaeologist, a zoologist, and marine biologist, because this is what I thought an archaeologist was, and this is what I thought a zoologist was, and this is what I thought, you know, Jacques Cousteau, a marine biologist was. I just basically wanted to travel the world and have adventures, and that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up having this kind of this pivotal moment one day when I got in trouble at school. I was 13 years old, and my mom had to pick me up from the principal's office, and I was getting in trouble for talking too much in class, and she sat me down and said, you know, I just think you would be a terrible scientist. You're just way too social. I don't see you being in a laboratory for long hours on end. Like, we got to figure this out, because I really just don't think it's meant for you. And at the time, I just thought my mom was crushing my dreams. I was a 13-year-old girl, like, why are you saying this to me, Mom? You know? But it was actually a really cool conversation, which is an exercise that I always ask people to do, and I'm asking all of you to kind of do it tonight too, when I mentor, is ask yourself, what are your strengths? Because when you're discovering your passion and starting your journey, that could be anything. For me, it was photography. And that's your first threat when we're talking about triple threats. Your path to getting where you want to be. And where I wanted to be was adventure. So my mom asked me, well, what are your strengths? And I said, well, I can talk to people. I'm fearless. I love to, just try anything. And I love being creative and writing. And then she asked me, okay, because asking me what your strengths are is very different than what are you good at, or what do you want to do? What do you want to do, and what are your strengths? Are two completely separate things, unless you're really lucky. But what are your weaknesses? So my mom asked me that, and that was obviously, I get bored easily, I can't sit still, I'm definitely not a morning person, I can't sit in an office, and just all of these things were my weaknesses. So based on that, my mom said, well, then what motivates you? And again, it was the whole adventure side of things. So she said something that would end up changing my life in this conversation. She said, well, why not be the photographer that follows around the scientists around the world? And I just had never even thought about it. And so it was kind of this light bulb moment that went off for me, and I decided to start studying photography and taking after-school classes. And then all of a sudden I fell in love with it, and that was kind of how I discovered my path at a very young age. So what I'm going to ask you guys, we're going to get into branding for a second, I want to talk about it, is branding is really, really important. For me, it's not just about big brands like Canon or the global brands, the Knot in the wedding industry, or Google or Apple. All these big brands spend a lot of time and money curating what they put out there about themselves, and they spend a lot of time really making themselves visible in very specific ways. And even though we're not all big brands, as business owners, we all have to think about branding and how we're putting ourselves out there, because what you're putting out there is what you're attracting back to you. So basically, you have to ask yourself, how do people see you as a photographer or a business owner? And then what kind of client do you want to attract? Because for me, when I started my business, I didn't realize that I had this much power, right? You're like, how am I going to pay my bills? And you just want to get as many clients as possible, and you're not really thinking about what you're putting out there and who you're attracting back to you. So when you think about branding yourself, you have to think about those questions. And finally, what differentiates you from everyone else? This is basically what branding is. It's about standing out. It's about what makes you stand out. What are you known for? Why is it that people come to you for certain reasons? And so when I started thinking about that, about how to brand myself as a wedding photographer, when I first started my business, I was 23 years old, and I started Beautiful Day Photography, which is my wedding photography business. And basically, I was like, well, I want to do travel photography. I really want to get out there and travel. So in order to have that kind of adventure and that Indiana Jones lifestyle, I would have to focus on destination weddings. All right, so how do I get these people to fly me across the world to shoot their weddings and they could just hire some local person? Why am I special, you know? And I started really thinking about what made me stand out. And for me, it's not just my vibrant imagery. You'll see from my photos today, I love color. I'm a colorist in general, just massive amounts of color. And I love to tell a story. I see weddings as vibrant. For me, this is the way I see it. And I feel like my brides and grooms feel this, are in this surreal, vibrant experience in their own heads. They're viewing their own wedding in this hyper color as well, and through adventure. So for me, when somebody brings me in a wedding, I'm not just a photographer. They're bringing me because they want me to do some crazy adventure shoot. They want me there as a guest. They love my personality. They know I'm not afraid to do anything to get the shot. I've gone in the water waist deep with stingrays. I've spelunking in the glowworm caves. I've done like anything it takes to get the shot, climbing mountains and going up to monasteries and sneaking into places and whatever it takes for my brides and grooms. So I realized that that was my selling point, that I'm branding myself as an experience, not just a vendor. And so when you decide something like that, you're branding yourself as an experience, you can't just show a static website anymore. A bio on my website or a slideshow of my work really doesn't explain to my clients what I do as a photographer. It doesn't explain what I had to do in order to get this shot. And it doesn't show me as a personality of who I am. The possessions and materialism that goes along with weddings, involved us going out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, way off the beaten path. So there were a lot of factors that went into creating this vision for her. So I loved any kind of challenge. I was definitely up for it. I just liked also the fact that there was a story behind it. It wasn't just dressing her up in a bridal gown in some pretty place with some flowers. We had a definite statement before we went out there. When I studied photojournalism, we were told that every image had to tell a story. And now I finally, through my photography, get to combine my Indiana Jones sense of adventure with my love for storytelling. So I have to thank them. They're not here tonight, but Blue Pixel and McCoy, Colin and Nick are amazing. And they shot all that on Mark III's, I believe. But just a simple 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you learn a lot about me and my personality and my clients that I attract, rather than that you couldn't get from the bio on my website. That I love soccer, I like soccer, and I love adventure, and I love driving, I love car, or hats, and I just will climb anywhere and do whatever it takes. And it's kind of just, it just says a lot in a short period of time. All right, so video is not the future, it's right now. Right now, 90% of all online traffic is driven by video. When I heard this statement, I was actually at a conference and somebody said that in her speech, and it really struck me, it was last year actually, that I don't even be getting videos out there. I know I'm not a videographer, but why not utilize the fact that I have video? So I decided to try to think of a way that I could do consistent video that I could put out there. And I came up with Wanderlust Worth 1,000 Words Wednesday. So Wanderlust is my second business. All of my travel photography and my adventure photography and writing I do through Wanderlust. Beautiful Day Photography is my wedding business. And in order to promote the Facebook page and my website, I decided to start a YouTube page for Wanderlust, and then to every week release a different video. And what my Worth 1,000 Words videos are I just take one of my photos and I just talk about it. I probably speak a lot more than 1,000 words in each video. I didn't actually time it or anything, but each video is just a little glimpse of what I was doing, where I was, why I shot the shot, maybe a funny story that happened. And I find that it's consistent. I have people that look forward to it. Sometimes I'm traveling, and it's Thursday for me, but it's Wednesday there, and I don't even know, and I might not post it exactly on Wednesday. And people will email me and ask me, where's your video? I'm waiting for it. So it gives your fans or your clients or people that want to follow you something to look forward to as well. So I want to show an example of what I did, and it's something I do in my living room. Our living room, we just set up a camera on a tripod, and I sit there and just probably pick 20 different pictures, and I'll just talk about each one on camera, and then I have it, and it's done, and I can cut it to a little mini video. So here is an example of one of my Worth 1,000 Words Wanderlust Wednesday videos. image that I took in Jaipur, India, and it's of one of the floating lake palaces. And what was so cool was I was trying to figure out a way to shoot it differently, because a million people stand on the edge of the lake and shoot a million types of photos of the same lake palace every day. And my favorite time of day to shoot is twilight, because you get that perfect like 10-15 minutes where the sky is like this amazing blue color, and all of the tungsten lights or any kind of candle light or firelight or anything is like the exact exposure of the twilight. And you just get it in that sweet spot where in this 10 minutes it all matches and looks really perfectly lit. So I was there in twilight, they just lit up the whole Lake Palace lights, and I was ready to shoot. And as I was shooting, I was like, gosh, something's missing. Like, I need something in the foreground of this picture. And I saw this little boy and his family like lighting a fire, and they were this really poor family on the edge of the lake, and they were trying to cook their dinner. And so I ran over there and decided to frame the little boy and the fire in the foreground of the Lake Palace. And it was just one of my favorite images because it just all perfectly matched. It was like that sweet moment and sweet time of day, and everything kind of works out in this image. So basically, showing consistency is really important, and I love doing these little videos. I mean, it doesn't take much. You can do it in iMovie, you can just clip it really quick. It's not the craziest professional video, but it gets my message out there, and it allows me to be sharing my photos and my wanderlust to a larger audience out there through video. And thirdly, I want to talk about Naviga. So here's another story before I get into my third point. Naviga is National Geographic's catalog, and I've been working with them for the last 4 years. They basically represent artisans around the world that are doing something called vanishing arts. They, for instance, the man in Bali, Indonesia, who does ancient flute making made out of bamboo flutes, or the hill tribe women in Thailand, the Long Neck tribe, that they do specific weavings that can be found nowhere else in the world. And Naviga is going around the world in search of these living treasures, they call them, that make these vanishing arts, and trying to represent them and sell their arts and crafts in the National Geographic catalog in order to not only raise awareness, but to help fund the villages, help fund the art forms, help preserve the art forms, help give women jobs and women empowerment. They're doing a lot around the world. And for 15 years, I was playing on the same soccer team with the CEO and founder of Naviga. I had no idea. And every Monday I would see him play soccer. And one day I decided to launch my Wanderlust Facebook page. And I was posting travel images. And at soccer one night, he said, I had no idea you did travel imagery. I thought you just did weddings. Would you be willing to go to Peru next week? Our photographer just asking me to go. I said, I will. So I went to Peru, and that trip completely changed my life and has led to me shooting for them all over the world, in 5 different continents. I've trained their photographers around the world, and I'm not only doing fashion shoots, but I get the lucky, rare experience to go live sometimes for a couple days at a time with these hill tribes or with these indigenous people, and get to see them making the goods and what they're doing that's being sold into the catalog. So while I was on one of these journeys, and I'm going to show you this video, I decided to just do some video clips. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm in this amazing village in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to shoot video clips. So when I got home, I asked an editor of mine to put together this little short video, and I showed it to Naviga, and they loved it so much that they now are hiring me to go around the different regions and shoot these little video clips for them, and it added another element to what I do for them. So I wanted to show my third video about showing the process and being able to use video to really show the purpose of why you're there.
From Naviga, you're not just buying an ordinary purse. You're buying art created by a local artisan that is helping to preserve their cultural heritage and helping to support the economy of their families and local community. Naviga hopes to promote awareness for endangered traditions and provide a place where you can not only purchase these fleeting art forms, but also pledge your support. Recently in Chiang Mai, we had the privilege of visiting the people, also known as the Long Neck tribe. The women in this village are known for their brass neck rings that give the appearance of a longer neck. The Canon people live mostly in the hills bordering the north of Thailand and Burma. They speak their own unique languages and wear traditional colorful woven garments. They care and live in such remote regions that it's hard to sell their crafts, and this is where Navika comes in. Artisans like Chirara Lodapadasanyu spend their time gathering vibrant woven garments from multiple hill tribes spanning from Vietnam to Thailand to China, and fashion them into gorgeous leather purses and bags. Chirara takes pride in creating unique products for her customers. Every woven piece tells a different story and comes from another special occasion for that tribe. And when she tells her customers about each piece, they walk away feeling happy because it's unique and it's a part of history. Not only is it supporting local artisans in Thailand, but also the surrounding hill tribes, allowing their culture to survive. By connecting local hill tribes to a global marketplace, Navika artisans are helping to empower women by providing jobs and allowing them to earn money for the family, and also preserving their culture. In the past, artists have been forced to give up their art in favor of a more lucrative career. Navika allows them to carry on with their craft by providing them a platform by which they can operate a sustainable and creative business.
So I want to tell a quick story. I'm talking about storytelling, so I decided I might as well tell a story over here. One of my favorite trips that I got to do for Navika was to spend a couple of days on the floating grass islands of Uros, which is high in the Andes Mountains in Lake Titicaca, Peru. And these women, actually the men are known for knitting, and the women are known for weaving. And they weave these really vibrantly bright colored outfits, as you can see. And they literally live on these islands that float in the middle of the lake. So for 2 days, I got to go out there and stay with them, and it was such an amazing experience. I wanted to share this photo story because this story would be what inspired me to start writing. Basically, you show up on a boat, all of their boats, everything's made out of grass. Their little lookout towers, their boats, their huts, everything's made out of grass. And this is the view I came upon when I was being greeted by the women on the island that I would be calling home for 2 days. And just the reflection, the colors, and just the contrast and everything, even the archway entrance to the island was made out of grass. The funny thing about that, so here the women are, they actually make little mobiles and art pieces out of the grass. They pretty much do everything with grass there. And part of the chores every day is that the men have to go out and chop the grass nearby and layer it on the ground, or else the island will sink. So every day they have to layer the island. And the women and the men all wear hats there, which is totally my place to be. And but their hats tell a different story. So if you're wearing a straw hat, you're married. You wear a knit cap, you're single. And if you are the patriarch of the island, you wear a ski cap looking hat, which means you're a very important person. So each island, there's about 40 islands, one whole family lives on the island. All their kids and their daughters and their grandparents, everyone lives on one island. So this is my island, which is Kantati, and they cut a hole through the island and put a net in it and created a pond. So when they went fishing, they could throw the fish in there, and then at night for dinner, anyway, so this is Victor, and he was taking me on his chores for the evening, which was fishing and trying to get dinner and chopping down some grass. That's what they do all day long. So anyway, there's another shot of Victor at sunset. I felt like he was a gondolier, a grass gondolier. It was pretty awesome. This is the view of Puno, which is the actual city, which is right there. You're on this island on floating grass, and every time a boat goes by, it moves like you're on a dock. It's a really surreal place. But civilization's right there. It's a few miles away, but these people are choosing to live like this. And it's awesome that Navika is representing these cultures that are dying, because most of these people, their kids don't want to necessarily live on a grass island anymore. They have access to cell phones and tourists that are coming in, and they know there's a greater world out there than this floating grass island they're living on. So Navika's trying to promote the culture and give them a sustainable way to make money. This is our leisure area. You can notice, which is pretty amazing, there's a solar panel on a grass stalk. They actually had power for their kitchen. And this was our chef or cook in the casino there. And these were their men's and women's bathrooms. They actually wove little dolls so you could tell which one was which. That was pretty nice of them. And this was the part of the leisure area, a grass swing set. They had grass lawn chairs, everything. It was amazing. They also had a little grass store, and where they sold stuff to tourists that come there. And this was what they had. Obviously, they can't grow anything on this island, so they had these floating grocery stores that would come every day and give them goods from the mainland that they couldn't get otherwise. That was their little lookout tower that they have on every island. So I went there to shoot for Navajo and do portraits of these people. So I wanted to really quickly just show you some of the portraits and give you a little Canon prop here. But I'm on this island, I don't really have power, I just have batteries, and I wanted to be able to do studio lighting. Not that I joined another family portraits, but and this is a little girl who just got a bag of chips from the floating grocery store. How I did this is, when I'm traveling, I really sometimes have to hike into places and be very mobile. So all I bring is a small backpack bag sometimes, and these two little bags that fit into a bag. This is my travel tripod that can open up, and this is my travel beauty dish, softbox dish, that opens up to this. All right, so this is actually a leg that I can take off of my tripod, and I can use a Canon 600 flash or a 580 flash, or actually 600 flash. And it's meant to go into this little thing, and I basically had an assistant or someone hold it out like this, and I used a little transmitter on the end of my camera, this little Canon transmitter that you can purchase and just put it on top of your camera, and basically voila, you have instant studio lighting anywhere on floating grass island. So that's my gear. I'm very portable when I'm traveling.
Laura, hold it up again. We need to get a shot.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, awesome. Yeah, the funny thing is, I realized really quickly, for Navica, everyone needs to sign releases. They don't speak Spanish, so I speak Spanish. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. We can, be able to communicate. Well, they speak an ancient dialect of Incan, Quechua, Indian. They don't speak Spanish. So for 2 days, I'm spending like in their life with them for 2 days, and we can't communicate with words at all. So it was just like elaborate hand gestures and showing them the back of my camera and just trying to get. But it was weird how we were able to completely coexist that way. But trying to get them to sign a waiver and understand what I was talking about is a whole other story. Anyway, okay. So what I realized on this trip is that there's not just one way to tell a story. I was so inspired by this particular trip that I went on that I decided to write a whole piece about my experience of living on this floating grass island. It really moved me because I was actually there just to shoot the people meeting, and it was so much more than that to me. And I realized that there are many, many stories to tell, and that there's many other outlets and ways to tell them. So I decided that I was going to submit that story to Huffington Post Travel with some photos and just see if they liked it. And they loved it so much that they featured it right away, and they asked me to become a travel writer for them. So now I do a lot of consistent writing for Huffington Post Travel, and which leads into my next point of elevating and becoming a triple threat. By adding words to my stories, I did not realize the power of adding words until I sent that story to them and they published it. Within 10 minutes of publishing that particular story, these guys would attest to it. We were in an RV in New Zealand, and we had internet photos. We were stealing it from that little Indian restaurant next to us because we gotta be connected while we're in an RV. And I submitted this article, and within 10 minutes of it going live, I got asked to go down to the Amazon for another tour company and experience staying on their cruise down the Amazon and one of their sister hotels in a treehouse hotel in exchange for just writing about it and photographing it. So we leave on Wednesday for that. I'm very excited. But that was just, I didn't realize the outreach of spreading my words and my stories out there through Huffington Post or any other outlet until I just did it. So that opened up the doors to a lot of epiphanies for me in terms of how powerful words are. So I want to get into the triple threat here for me, which is writing. Become a thought expert to further your brand. Basically, for years, I would look at Condé Nast Traveler and all these travel magazines, and I would just, how do I get to be that person that's writing and traveling the world, photographing and doing these stories for them? And it just seemed like an unattainable goal for me. I did not know how to do it. And I realized that in order to be an expert, you have to put yourself out there. You need to write, You need to guest blog, you need to contribute to different places, you need to offer your services to speak, you need to do lots of things in order to become an expert. And then once you're an expert, a lot of doors open up to you. But there's no person that gives you an expert degree or something like that. You just have to keep putting your words out there. And words are really important, and I'm going to give you an example of why. So before I get into my bullet points, I want to do an exercise that we did in college a lot. We would put a photo up and everybody would write a different caption for it. And it would completely change the meaning of the photo and just show you how important words are. So I just shot this in Indonesia 2 weeks ago. And this is a true statement of what was going on here. An Indonesian grandmother teaches the skills of the family sardine trade to her granddaughters, preserving this family tradition that is being replaced by larger companies coming into Indonesia to globally export canned sardines. This is what is happening here. But what if I had changed that and written, it is estimated that 3.2 million children between the ages of 4 and 10 years old in Indonesia are engaged in employment, with some involved in the worst forms of child labor, which is also a true fact in Indonesia. And I realized that I had this epiphany. I have all 10 years, 15 years worth of travel photos sitting on hard drives in my house. And I could be repurposing them and telling different stories and supplementing with the same photos and sending them out to different publications. And it just breathed new life into images I already had and gave me opportunities to tell even more stories and to reuse images and to basically start writing about trips I had already done and trips I'm doing now, and it just opened up the possibilities for my travel work, like, immensely, exponentially. So ways to use writing to enhance your photography. We talked about one, adding power to your images through words. Creating searchable content. So as much as I like to say that, pictures are worth 1,000 words, they're not really searchable words though. In order to find something on the internet and Google search, mostly you're looking at content, you're looking at written words that are searchable. So it's really important to put stories out there, to create content on your blogs, to write, because that's how people are going to find your photos, not through your photography. Package yourself as a multimedia maven. So I coined multimedia maven because to me that's kind of what we all are. We all have to be really good in lots of different mediums. We have to be able to share video and photo and words and Instagram and social media and all these things. And what I realized is that the problem that we all have as business owners, which is how do I get myself out there? This is really exhausting. Lots of big brands and companies and tour companies and hotels have the same problem. They want to know, how do I get more access on social media? How do we get more influence out there? How do we reach younger people? They have the same problems, and they're constantly looking for content. And they don't want to do any work. They don't want your photos to be sent to them without a story attached. They're like, thank you very much, you're wasting my time. What they do want is someone to approach them and say, hey, I can write for this publication, I can come to your hotel, I can take photos, I can do video clips if you want. I also have the ability to do this, I can share it on social media, I can outreach here, and they will absolutely bring you in, and they absolutely want a full package like that. If you package yourself and pitch it to hotels or tour groups, I've found that I've never been turned down. I've never been turned down when I've asked them, because they all need that. And I didn't realize how much power you have as a writer until I started writing. So when I want to talk about branding yourself before others brand you, show you a slideshow of my travel work while I'm talking. So when I approached a lot of publications and started submitting my stories, I realized that I was instantly growing my audience. Like I said before, the second I posted that article, I got asked to go on the Amazonian cruise. And I basically realized I was reaching these brands and these tour companies and hotels that I never thought I could reach before. And, it's opened up the doors of writing for other publications too. I'm now writing for Gallivan, which is also a luxury tour company based in New York, and they feature a lot of hotels and tour groups around the world. And so they have asked me now to, as I'm traveling, they'll reach out to hotels in the region I'm traveling and ask if I can go there and shoot for them and represent Gallivan. So that's been an added level to my business, where I can now make, combine one job with another job while I'm there. While I'm on these jobs and all the planes I'm on and all the trains and all the things that you do when you travel, I can be sitting there and writing stories on my laptop. It's one of those things where I said, how am I going to have time to even add more stuff and be a triple threat? And I found that there is a way to do it, and there is a way to reuse existing content. So while we're speaking of words, I want to talk about the power of the words that you use to describe yourself, the rhetoric you use to describe yourself. And I mean, most people call that the elevator speech, you know, to have like a 20-second blurb that you use to talk about yourself and your style and who you are as a business owner. I find that most photographers, correct me if I'm wrong, when somebody asks you what you do for a living, you just describe you to the next person. And that's going to be the words that you use online, that people are going to share and use about you online. And ultimately, you're creating your own title. And that's really important. You are in charge of your own persona. And the power of the words that you use, not only to speak about yourself, but to write, put on your bio out there, all those searchable words are really important. So my elevator speech is that I'm a destination adventure photographer, a photo anthropologist, and a thrill seeker, a writer. I love new experiences and experiencing new cultures and sharing those stories from my travels around the world. And just succinctly, but there's a lot to say. There's a lot that I do. I'm more than just a photographer, and it's hard to say everything you do in 20 seconds. So that thought made me realize I need to have something more than an elevator speech. I need something more than a bio on my website to describe who I am. And just like I came up with the epiphany of, gosh, you know, if I'm branding myself as an experience, I need a virtual business card, a video, behind-the-scenes video to show what I do as a photographer. I also need another way of showing who I am now, because my job title, even in the last 6 months, has changed drastically. I now have to say I'm a travel writer. I now say I'm a blogger. I'm a curator of adventure experiences for another company called ifonly.com, and I'll talk about that later. But I'm doing all kinds of things and speaking engagements and art galleries, and I'm not just a photographer anymore. So my roommate, Leslie here, is fantastic with social media, and she has a lot of experience in the entertainment world, and she came up with the idea and said, you need an EPK. And I was like, what? I mean, I had no idea what EPK was, and now I do. It's an electronic press kit. So I've never thought of myself as being a press kit. I'm not a TV personality. I'm not an actress. But she explained to me that I am a personality now. I am putting myself out there as an experience. I am doing a wide variety of things. So I need to have a way, it's sort of a virtual resume to show what I do. So I use issue.com. Thank you, Bestwire, for telling me to use that one. It's awesome. It's like a virtual magazine that you can flip through, and I'll just show you really quickly what mine looks like. So this is my title page of my EPK. I have my bio. I have photos that have been published. I have me on location and fun photos around the world. I have articles that I've written, travel writing, and I just posted a bunch of them. And what's cool about this is that you can send it out as a link, or you can send it out as a PDF, and it's all linkable. So if somebody actually wants to read one of these articles, they can click on it, and it'll take you to where that article lives on the internet, and you can read it. Or you can just flip through and be like, okay, she writes. Covers I've shot, features on TV, the videos I do for National Geographic. You can click on it and view the videos. Features of guest blogging and things I've done with other people and articles written about me. These are magazine spreads for Ellie-Centric magazine. I did a whole Wanderlust series for them where I would do, 10 pages. I got 10 pages a month to do travel stories with them. And so you can click on this and it'll take you and open up to the full story. Of course, speaking engagements, and also, my fine art gallery shows. And then finally, the final page when you flip through is all your contact information. Everything about you, how to reach you, click on it, and you get there. So it's amazing to be able to send this out. I sent this out to a lot of hotels, because hotels want to see, well, what can you do for me if you come to the hotel? And now I can say, well, I can write, and I'm doing all these things, and this is my press. And so I find that this is way more valuable to send out than just my website. Someone says, great, they great work. But if I want to write, I want to add, to be able to provide press, or more of an experience, more of a multimedia engaging personality, this is what I send out to people. And finally, talk about social media and some things up before we go into questions. We live in a digital society, obviously. I am completely addicted to my phone. It's weird. I can turn it off for 6 weeks and be completely fine, and then land. And the second I land, I'm completely connected again, and it's just a weird, it's very bizarre. I'm sure most of us are like that. But basically, the way that we are in society now is that information is so readily available. People are now busier, and they're traveling, and they're communicating constantly, and information is readily available all the time. And I had internet while I was on a pirate ship in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I had full cell service when I was on that floating grass island in Peru. It's bizarre. But people are connected, and in a weird way, you're ever connected now because of technology, but you're also people are becoming more disconnected because we're so connected on through our devices that we're not really interacting as much in real life and having real human connections. So I feel like the way that we decipher information and even just the definition of a photographer has drastically changed in the last 10 years. As a photojournalist, it used to be considered, for me, very taboo to use the computer. We only use the computer if the negative had a scratch and you had to scan it in and fix the scratch. It was super taboo to use the computer for anything at the time, and now they don't even have dark rooms at Syracuse University. It's all computer labs. So, and that was only, I'm not going to age myself, that was 15 years ago. And it's really crazy how much it has changed. So, because of that, I find now through social media and because people want to connect, people want to live vicariously through you. The people that are following you want to feel like they're there with you, they want to feel like they're experiencing it and that they're your friend, and they want to feel like they're part of your everyday life. So the more you have a strong brand presence online, the more that you're going to be reachable, accessible, likable. People are going to want to hire you more, they're going to want to be your friend more, they're going to choose you over the next guy that they can't tell that person's personality. So we live in a world that is creating young triple threats every day through social media. I realized when I was writing this that social media is a triple threat. You're using photos, video, and words to share information. And kids are doing it instantly, have all the time in the world to do it, getting tons of followers, and it's just a way of life. And what's cool about it is that because of social media, it's forcing all the rest of us to have to change suit and to do the same with our own businesses. Now, as a photographer, you're not just a photographer. You have to be a triple threat, and you have to share your information in this way. So what I've realized is that it's about having intention behind your work. There are apps out there like Instagram, Snapchat, Periscope. They're all creating curated, sometimes instantaneous content for people around the world, total strangers, whatever. And I'm not going to get into what each of these apps do, but never in the history of photography or mankind have we had the ability to just spread and share our information instantly to a wide, wide audience of people. And instead of fearing this, we should pay attention and say, okay, well, let's figure out who your audience is. Where do they live on the internet? Which mediums do we need to target them? How are we going to find our ideas and get our stories out there? And ultimately, you just have to know that people just want to share, and they just want to feel that they are connected to you and that they're part of a community. So, for me, being a triple threat has allowed me to expand my business in multiple directions. It's not like a linear path anymore. It's about being able to do lots of different things and expand kind of like the universe is right now. It's expanding out. So it has given me the ability to tell greater stories, to tell more global stories, more important stories. Not that weddings aren't important, but just more outside of the wedding bubble. It's allowed me to tell global stories and share them. And I also realized that by adding videos and words to my work, it is forcing me to frame things differently. I now have to think about the story before I shoot it. I have to think about B-roll or things that, the establishing shots that I have to do, or how am I going to lay this out for the magazine, and I have to really think about the story before I go shoot it. Before I was just shooting weddings, I'm just shooting what's happening. But now I actually have to think about the story and frame things differently, and it's forcing me to have intention behind my work, which is something that it's kind of bringing back the photojournalism and the life into my work. So with that being said, I think it's a really important lesson for all of us, whether we're just Instagrammers, we're storytellers, we're photographers, videographers, creative entrepreneurs, whatever we are, we're all just storytellers. And we're just storytellers across different mediums. So there's not just one way to tell a story. There's a multitude of ways to tell it, multiple mediums. And I just want you guys to ask yourselves, what story are you trying to tell? Okay. Do we have time for questions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hi guys. Yeah, I want to mention one thing before we get into that. So there's a website launching called ifonly.com. They are based in San Francisco, and they are offering creative curated experiences for people. Where if you're traveling or in a city, if you want to go do something cool, you can click on it and you can spend the day with a local chef, or you can do a workshop with a photographer. And they approached me to be a luminary and to create adventure workshops for them, some local and some far away. So I'm telling you guys about it because it's going to be a really cool platform, and I will be using that platform to launch my adventure workshops in a month. So just giving you guys that. All right.
Can you say the name?
Ifonly.com?
If only?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so they're going to be offering really curated creative experiences to people in San Francisco, New York, LA, but then they're also offering adventure workshops around the world. Like some guy, you can jump in a helicopter with him in Antarctica, and like, well, yeah, there's other things going on. But so yeah, so just check it out. So they can put that out there.
I don't really have a question, I have a few comments.
Oh, okay.
First of all, I don't know how you arranged, I mean, what the arrangement was for you to be here, but since Amy runs this facility, I'm going to give her the kudos for discovering you.
Okay, I'll take it.
Whatever it is. Been in this business a long time. I deal with a lot of young people, and as I travel around the country, I get people that say, what's the magic bullet? What's the test I have to take? What series of people do I have to know in order to be a successful photographer? And you are the embodiment of somebody who's making it happen for herself. And you can clap at that. I mean, I could go on and on about the inspiration that you are, and that you should be talking to young people to get them off their dead lazy asses and stop wondering who they have to know. And to me, when I talk to people, I say it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And you are doing that in some very important ways. And I heard earlier that you mentor people. It's great to mentor people, but you also have to mentor the right people who are going to be responsive to that mentor. And just one last thing, I don't think the title of your talk, Triple Threat, is correct. I think it's the ultimate threat, ...
Alright, I will change it for you. Now that I know how to use PowerPoint, I will go ahead and do that. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very kind of you to say. Going to the mentoring, really briefly, the reason I started mentoring was because it's exactly what I said when I graduated college, and I realized there was no real person that helped me. I learned how to be a photographer, but there was no one there along the way to show me how to be an artist and start my own business and really...
Nobody does. They say, hey, if you're good, you'll figure it out. That's what they tell you. They don't teach business 101.
No,
they don't tell you, and it changes all the time. You just talked about tools that are, they've been there, but you're using them in very effective ways. The problem is people want to just be told how to do it. They don't take the time to be thoughtful, to understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and to overcome their fear of failure. And I think you do all of those things.
Thank you. I try. Every day's a learning curve. You never reach the pinnacle that you think, I've made it. Like, that never actually happens. There's always something else.
It's very apparent. You are constantly looking at yourself and trying to figure out ways of reinventing yourself. I mean, I have people that say, well, how do I do this? How do I do that? You're doing it in new and exciting ways. You're thinking about doing it in ways other people aren't doing it. And it's apparently effective.
Thank you.
And the next question.
Bring this guy everywhere.
Hi, Laura. I need to ask, my name is Ulysses. Why do you continue to do, we've seen all of your world travels, but why do you continue to do family portraits and have a clientele that is a traditional photographer? We've seen all of your exploits, but you also have a part of your business where you have a consistent clientele of portraits and families. Why do you still do that?
That's a good question, Ulysses. No, the reason I do is because I shoot a lot of weddings, I end up becoming really good friends with most of my brides and grooms. And I actually have an interest in wanting to know how they're doing and when they start having children and when they, just progress in their lives. It's kind of weird to go through an entire year of intimacy and process with them shooting their wedding and then just never talk to them again. So I actually don't advertise that I do family portraits. I really only do family portraits for existing, like for brides and friends and family and people that I know that I really just want to see their families and grow, because that is definitely not the lucrative part of my business at all. It's not, but I enjoy it.
My name is Brianna. Can you elaborate more on your mentorship program, or if it is a program, or how you do it?
I've actually joined other programs, so the Step Up Women's Network, also Spark, was one that I mentored with. They're based here in Los Angeles, and they were doing a photojournalism mentoring program for underprivileged youth down in downtown LA. And I found that, I thought I was going to be teaching, photography skills, and then I quickly learned that I spent the first half of the day just almost as a psychiatrist, like a therapist to some of these kids that just had it really rough at home. And some of them were just there because they didn't want to be home. They just didn't even want to be anywhere near home. And that was kind of a hard thing for me at first, but it was neat to be able to use photojournalism as a tool to build confidence and to get them out there doing fun, creative projects. But some other mentoring I've done is even just, Leslie Dris's mother helps high school kids across the nation or just in California finding scholarship money for them to pair them up so they can go to school. And she does these dinners, it's called Solutions, down in San Diego, where they will have like a creative night or a tech night or whatever. They'll invite a bunch of different entrepreneurs and people within that industry to come and speak. And so I always would go and speak to the high schoolers about the creative side of things. And their parents would be there with them saying, will you please tell my daughter she can't make a living as a photographer? And I was like, sorry, that's not what I'm going to say to your child. I'm probably going to convince her to not become a doctor and do everything you want her to do. So I've been doing lots of different things like that. I don't really offer my own mentor program. I've just kind of assisted in other ways. It's hard with my travel schedule. I'm gone a lot. So to be consistent, it has been something harder for me in the last year. I haven't mentored in the last 9 months in terms of something steady every week. But I do definitely still do that. And Solutions, Spark is a great one in Santa Monica where one child is paired up with you and you work with them. Yeah.
How long did it go? Oh, I'm Monica. How long did you did the Huffington Post thing and now it's about to come out. How long ago did you shoot it and then to it being published?
Oh, well, when I shot that article, the Floating Grass Island, I sent it to them, and when they sent me the invitation to write for them, I can now self-post, and within 24 hours I post online. So I can post anytime I want, whatever I want. And it's pretty awesome to be able to have a timeline like that with them because, a lot of times you're waiting months and months and months for a publication to come out, and it's instant with Huffington Post. So, yeah, so I'm actually going back and writing and trying to catch up with it and submitting more.
When you shot the covers, that's very impressive, all the covers that you've shot. Was that for a specific editorial spread that you were assigned? Or were those pulled from destination weddings?
Most of those are pulled from weddings. When I was doing I'm still doing wedding photography, but when I shoot weddings, I'm constantly submitting my work to different blogs or magazines, publications, and a lot of times they just found something they really liked, and sometimes it'll even be older, and they'll post it on their cover. Or, I would say maybe a third of the time it's attached to an actual shoot that's within the magazine.
I have another question for you. Are you submitting your stuff to stock so that you can make extra money for it?
That's a whole another animal. I know you're in the stock getting world, and
you should. I think you should.
It's interesting. I have done a little bit of that. I'm kind of waiting because there's a few other things in the works right now where I'm going to be licensing my images out. It's not quite stock, but it's going to be, Navica and National Geographic, they're going to start offering prints for sale and things like that. So I'm a little reluctant to license out my images yet until I know with that, but I haven't done it thus far. That used to be the way to go. I personally, I know it's hard because you're kind of shooting before you even get the money or you even know if it's usable. You're just kind of shooting and putting it out there. So, but I do have a lot of travel imagery and travel collection stuff that I can do. But I don't know. I definitely want to talk to you more about that later. Maybe. Anyone else?
And then for all submissions, do you always submit a story with it?
I now do. Oh yeah. In the beginning, I didn't. I would just send a bunch of photos to an editor, and which I think is their biggest nightmare. And yeah, I always do. Or even actually, what I do now too is before I even go on a trip, I'll reach out to a magazine editor or even a publication and say, hey, I'm about to do this amazing trip, and I'm going here, here, and here. Is there anything over there you want me to cover? Is there properties that you'd love? Or I'd love to submit a story idea for this and that. And even if they're like, sorry, we don't have room for it, they remember me and they know who I am. So when I do come back later on and send images their way or send an article, they'll be like, oh, this is that chick Laura. That, you know, it's kind of just putting it out there, and you're not just approaching them like, hey, can you publish me? You're actually offering something to them, and I find that's a lot more valuable to be able to be in the position of offering something than asking. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, Amy.
What's on your bucket list for your top 5 things to do?
Good question.
Wait, like locations to go to?
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you this. I'm organizing this trip in over New Year's, but I want to go and stay in a thermal heated big blue hotel with the northern lights in Finland. We're calling it Funland, the trip. And we're going to do like reindeer safari and doing fun stuff like that. That's number 1. That's awesome. Number 2 on my list right now, oh gosh, there's lots of things. I would say that I definitely want to go do a road trip through countries that I've never really heard of. Like, I mean, I wasn't heard of like Albania or just random ones that you don't know anything about the country. I just want to go on a road trip through like Croatia and find out when I get there what their currency is and, you know, just figure it out. So I want to do something like that. But no, honestly, there's so many places, and as I travel, more people say to me, oh, are you running out of places to go? And it's kind of a ridiculous statement, because the more you travel, the more you find out about things that you don't know about. Bhutan's on my list. It's really hard. They have like 0 ties with the U.S. in terms of, you know, foreign policy. And, but yeah, there's a lot of places that I hear about as I'm traveling, and I feel like my list is getting longer, not really shorter.
Do you create your stories before you send them to different, I mean, of course you do, but are you being assigned these stories, or are you just going out shooting and then sending?
No, I'm not being assigned these stories. This is why the internet is so starved, and you know, these publications are so starved for information. A lot of times, I just write as I feel. I'll think of an angle and I'll write it, but a lot of times I just submitted an article today, and they said, we love this, but could we change the theme to the top 5 reasons why, blah, 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 and then sometimes they'll just ask me to tailor things for them. They have their own copywriters too. A lot of these places, so they'll take an article and reshape it sometimes. But no, I mean, it's as I said at the end of my talk, it's forcing me to kind of have a story and intention beforehand. Because I always thought, looking at Condé Nast and all those places, that they're commissioning these stories, and that's not what's happening. People are writing them, doing it on their own, and submitting them. Yeah. Anyone else? You're like, yeah.
As far as just like money and funding, things like that.
Do you want to just travel, or do you want to travel jobs?
Oh, and I want to travel and shoot, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I started in my 20s and lived off credit cards because both my sisters live in Europe, and so I was able to just kind of find friends of friends and offer to shoot things for free for them, and that was the best way for me. A lot of times people will just pay or travel for you to come out and shoot something for free. I would just start offering to shoot something for free in exchange for travel. I've done that a lot, and a lot of people are willing to do that. And you just have to get out there and do it, because no one, you know, it's kind of a catch-22. If you want a job shooting a wedding in Mexico, you kind of have to have work to show work of shooting a wedding in Mexico. So like, which comes first? You have to kind of get yourself there and shoot it first. So what you need to decide is, where do I want to shoot? So if you want to market yourself to shoot in Mexico here and there, then you need to go to Mexico, do a shoot in Mexico, and then start marketing it. People have no idea that you're not getting paid to be there. They're just going to see your work and say, wow, she did this amazing wedding in Mexico. I'm going to fly her out for my Mexico wedding. So you don't have to put it out there that, and when you're pitching it to people, you know, don't sell yourself short. Don't say, I want to be a destination photographer. Say, I am a destination photographer. I would love to shoot in Mexico. Can I do something? You know, just put it out there like that. Yeah.